You can see her.
Our theory about Joe Kessler was true, and Zendaya being the safe word for the Boys Universe version of Spider-Man is wild. Hey guys, Shalon here, welcome to the Bin Zone. On today's video, we're breaking down The Boys Season 4 Episode 6 titled Dirty Business, and we're all gonna need a shower after this episode. But jumping into the episode, it starts off with Joe and Butcher waking up Samir. Let me know in the comment section below, did you catch that? That opening scene pretty much revealed that Joe Kessler was not real. But then Joe gets Butcher to try to convince Samir to create a virus strong enough to take out Homelander. This opening scene is very important because it's pretty much setting off the rest of the season, because at this point, we know what happens later on in the episode with the virus, so this is the starting point to seeing just how far Butcher is willing to go to take out Homelander. We then go from Kessler and Butcher to Huey and his mother, and this was Huey's father's last wish, to have his ashes spread in the Made in Manhattan walking tour. Outside of last episode when Huey's father got powers, this was arguably one of the weakest plot points of this season so far, so I'm glad it's over. It was a beautiful ceremony, I guess, for Huey's father, but I wasn't too interested in this scene here. The following scene is also another scene I'm not really interested in. We're following Kimiko, who's trying to visit Frenchie after he turned himself in. At this point, I think the show doesn't really know where they want to go with Frenchie and Kimiko's story. So again, that was another plot point that really wasn't resonating. Don't get me wrong, I like Kimiko and I like Frenchie. I just don't like this plot point. And with this scene, Frenchie doesn't want to see Kimiko, so even with this being a weaker plot point, it's not moving along. We then find out Cameron Coleman has been replaced by Firecracker, and now her truth bomb is on VNN. So at this point, no one knows what happened to Coleman in the finale of last episode, and Firecracker being put in all these new positions of power, she's really going to show her gratitude at the end of the episode. With her being the new host, we find out MM's anxiety levels are going through the roof. At this point, MM is losing it. And not just MM, but A-Train also feels like he's losing it, because at this point he's starting to figure out, they're getting closer and closer to figuring out that he's the leak. And we all know if Homelander finds out it's A-Train, ah man, especially since Tech Knight is having a party at his house and they're all invited. So A-Train giving the boys this information is not just helping them out, it's also to make sure that he has some backup in the party. And that's when we're introduced to the boys' version of Spider-Man, Web Weaver. MM has to go to Web Weaver in order to get his costume, and Web Weaver's intro scene is littered with Easter eggs and innuendos leaning towards Spider-Man, heavily leaning on the Spider-Man motif. First of all, Web Weaver's broke, his house is covered in web, and his web shooter comes from on top of his butt, like a real spider. Not like Spider-Man's wrist, but where it should actually come out if Spider-Man were real. And he's doing odd jobs for money, kind of like Peter Parker, and in this scenario, he's actually doing drugs, and MM has to insert the drugs through his rectum, and I did say at the start of this video, we're gonna have to take a shower after this episode, especially because MM gets sprayed with web and they get the costume, and Huey's the only one who can pull it off, but the costume stank, it has dried cum, and it's disgusting. But they need him to get into the party, because at the party, we not only have Tech Knight, Homelander's there, Sister Sage, Firecracker, A-Train, and 38% of the US GDP, the real powers behind the government, the actual people who get things done. And throughout the party, we see different characters having different conversations. We find out Tech Knight is racist, and he's leaning heavily into the fact that his family were slave catchers, and he's salivating at the thought of catching A-Train. Could you imagine if you love hunting slaves, and now you see the fastest slave in the world? The idea is just doing something for him, turning him on, and we know it is, because Tech Knight is the freakiest of freaks. Sister Sage is clearly out of her element here because she is not only a woman, but she's black. She's very uncomfortable, but we do get a little bit more glimpse into her plan. Sister Sage despises these people. She could cure cancer, she could do so many things with her genius, but she does not want to save this world because they did not save her grandma. As a child, when she created a cure, instead of using it to save people, they laughed her out the room. So instead of saving the world, she wants to watch it burn, and she wants to join Homelander's master plan. Victoria Newman is also looked down upon in this meeting because, of course, she is a woman and they look down on her and they're actually mansplaining abortion. It's wild. This episode is wild. After watching this scene, you also have to take a shower because this scene was disgusting and dirty too. Speaking of disgusting and dirty, the Deep and Black Noir both were not invited to the party. This season, both of these characters kind of have been sidelined because honestly, this new Noir is pretty useless and the Deep has always been useless. But we get a peek into what makes the Deep tick. He equates power with violence, and that's because he looks up to Homelander, who has all the power and is violent. That's how he gets his heart on, which is why he likes his sessions with Sister Sage, because he gets to be as violent as he can, and she won't feel a thing because her mind is numb. This is also causing Black Noir to think about leaning more into his violent side so he can fit in with the Seven even more. Back at the party, we see who the actual villains of this season are. They're grouped together. It's Sister Sage, it's Homelander, and it's Victoria Newman. When Firecracker tries to insert herself, Sister Sage tells her to beat it, and Homelander kind of agrees, because at this point, Firecracker really brings nothing to the table. But by the end of this episode, she's gonna flip this power dynamic on his head, and she's gonna be the one calling the shots over Sister Sage. With Huey being in the Web Weaver costume, we find out Tech Knight invited him to be his sidekick and takes him to the Tech Cave, which is really his secret sex dungeon. And this is where things get really freaky. Tech Knight has a BDSM power fantasy. He has other sidekicks, and once he's done with you, he kind of replaces you. Now it's Web Weaver's turn. But the fact that it's Huey makes this scene even more hilarious, because once he starts having Huey sit on Kick and do all types of weird things, ties Huey up, Ashley comes down, and we know Ashley has the kinky power dynamics, and this scene gets freaky. I don't want to get demonetized, so we're not going to spend too much time on it, but let's just say Ashley was sucking toes, and she left her womanly fluids all over Huey's face. Once the team can't hear from Huey, they decide to infiltrate the party themselves. Firecracker catches Starlight, and Starlight lures her into a false sense of security and knocks her out. Man, Firecracker just keeps catching L's from Starlight. MM and Kimiko almost get caught by Sister Sage, but before Sister Sage is able to snitch, MM shoots her in the brain. Thankfully, we, the audience, know that won't put her down because her brain can regenerate, but the boys don't know that, and MM, thinking he killed her, has a panic attack, and now Kimiko has A-Train come to help them in the middle of the party. But A-Train does this reluctantly so. However, I think this is A-Train's hero moment, because once HA gets MM to the hospital, a little boy sees him, and that boy's face lights up, igniting a sense of pride in A-Train that he's actually doing some good. He's actually being a superhero. But this being the boys, we know what that means. Once you start having a good character arc, I'm pretty sure A-Train's biting the bullet at the end of the season. A-Train makes it back to the party just in time for Homelander's speech, and we start to understand Homelander wants to stage a coup of the US government, and he needs these billionaires to help him. However, these billionaires don't fall for the usual talking points, because honestly, they're also behind the same talking points when it comes to their side. They know the talking points is just for the masses. What do we get out of this? We don't fear you, Homelander. We are the power. These are the richest people in the world. And they kind of sun Homelander, reminding Homelander again and reminding us, the audience, that he's just a boy playing a man. He has no idea what he's doing. He's just throwing a temper tantrum. And it's up to Victoria Newman, who gets up there and informs them of the plan, how they're going to take the government back. They should be in charge. They have the money. The rich 1% should rule the world, and that's how it needs to be. The masses can shut the fuck up. We run the world. And because we will have all the resources, we have all the power, that's how it's going to be. And she's going to facilitate them coming into power that way. Huey, on the flip side, does not know Web Weaver's safe word, so Tech Knight is able to find out that Huey is actually not Web Weaver. Once he removes the mask, he figures out it's Huey. He ties Huey up, and he's about to cut up a bunch of different holes in Huey's body so Huey can literally get fucked. Luckily enough for Huey, Kimiko and Starlight come in just in time, and they stop Tech Knight and they start to torture him. But how do you torture a rich billionaire sadomasochist because he loves pain? The answer to that is the same way you torture any billionaire. You start giving their money away. Tech Knight's ex-sidekick escapes and brings them Tech Knight's laptop. The laptop has access to all his accounts. The crew then uses Tech Knight's retinal scanners to get into the laptop, and they start donating his money away to different causes. But the cause that really sets Tech Knight off, and when he starts singing like a bird, is when they're gonna donate $100 million to Black Lives Matter. And we know Tech Knight is a storied racist, so that's when he sings like a bird and tells them the plan. Tech Knight's family, because they were slave catchers, were always in the prison industrial complex. And Tech Knight has so many detention centers and so many prisons around the country. Their plan is to take up everyone who does not follow Homelander's plan, round them up, and stuff them in prisons, internment camps, kind of like how the Nazis did, really leaning into that outright Nazi motif for Homelander. But the best part about this scene is even after Tech Knight sings like a bird, Kimiko still goes ahead and sends off that $100 million to Black Lives Matter, because fuck being racist. Once they find this out, they have to escape, but they can't leave Tech Knight alive. What are they gonna do? Don't worry about it, because Tech Knight's butler was black and he raised them. Even though he was raised by a black man, Tech Knight was still racist, and that butler is going to kill Tech Knight and make it look like an accident. So the boys escape, and now they have to deal with the aftermath of learning about this plan. MM is waking up at the hospital, and he's not having a heart attack. He's actually having a panic attack, and he needs to stop what he's doing. So he needs to get out of this life of crime. So he needs to stop crime fighting, but they need MM. So at this point, does he risk his life for the mission, or does he quit? Is he gonna become another butcher, or is he gonna walk away? Kimiko goes back to the prison to try to see Frenchie again, and it's because she has nowhere else to go. This plot point, I will stand by it. I don't like it so much, but Kimiko is really selling the feeling of being alone. Her connection to Frenchie, I feel like this plot point, all of it is really a way to bring Kimiko and Frenchie even closer together. Firecracker, thinking she's doing a good thing, goes to tell Homelander about Starlight. And once Homelander starts to accuse her of maybe being the leak, the fact that she got her ass whooped twice by Starlight, Homelander is this close to killing her, but then she pulls out her secret weapon, the good old breast milk. She found out Homelander's secret, and now she's shot herself up with drugs in order to produce breast milk, even if she's not pregnant. She did this, she contorted her body because Homelander has given her everything she can ever ask for, and this is just a small way of her repaying him back. And we all know how Homelander loves breast milk, so he's going crazy in that. And now the power dynamics have shifted. Because she was on the outside looking in, but now that she's giving Homelander what he truly wants, now that she has Homelander literally sucking out of her teeth, her power is gonna supersede Sister Sage's. Now that imbalance of power, now they're gonna start casting her out, because ultimately Homelander is petty and he's gonna take his walking breast milk factory with him over Sister Sage, over Newman, over his entire plan, honestly, because that brings him comfort. And we know Homelander suffers from deep childhood trauma. Speaking of trauma, Huey almost getting R-worded is trauma, and he has to process that. This whole episode was traumatic and disgusting, so he has to process all of it, and he's having a breakdown. His father just died. He almost got R-worded. It's a crazy time in Huey's life. But that's when we get to the end of the episode, and that's when our theory is 100% confirmed, because Samir says he cannot create a stronger virus that'll kill Homelander, because if he does, that virus is airborne. It's gonna kill everyone in the world that has compound V in their blood. And that was always Butcher's goal, which is when we find out that Joe Kessler is not real at all. He actually talks to Becca. When he turned around and looked at Becca and told her to shut up, my jaw dropped. My reaction was, oh my God. But then he says he's always been Butcher, which is crazy to me because a part of me always wanted him to be real. You know what's crazy? A part of me always wanted him to be real. Even though I have a theory about why he's not real on the channel, a part of me wanted for the creators to throw us an okie doke and actually make Kessler real, which would have been a real twist this season. Let me know in the comment section below, how did you feel about the reveal? Ultimately, Butcher has to make a tough choice. Is he going to release the virus? Remember in my video, I said Becca wants to save Ryan, but also she's the good angel while Kessler is the bad angel, really bringing out two sides of Butcher. Which side will Butcher lean into? And I think Butcher is going to lean into releasing the virus once he finds out what Homelander is planning. And Homelander, nothing is going to stop his plan. The Supes are going to take over the world unless Butcher can do something about it. But how are they going to convince Samir to actually make the virus is the real question. I want to know, what do you think? How are they going to convince Samir to make the virus? Let me know in the comment section below. But guys, that's it for this week's episode. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.